even though it is still very, very early. Only one game has been done so far. If we look back and turn the pages from yesterday, going in that final game, 38-point jump to get that 25th place. And so in the back of your mind, you know, you can be having some off games, but you have to be able to make up a huge point gap in that last and final game if you find yourself outside of the bubble. So everything you do here is in preparation, obviously, to not let that become to fruition. And already you're seeing what was a contested drop, now uncontested this time around. Pixie gonna get that one with ease.
A contested drop though. Merstash Malabuka, Grim Gate against Kiduo and Shiden. They came out on top in game 1. Can Merstash and Malabuka do it again?
Anything is definitely possible. 40 points already. So already on a much better pace than how their day started yesterday. Granted, there was more teams, but already you see in the minimap more and more starting to make their presence known in and around Grim Gates. And that's when things start to get tough for not only them, but any team landing in this position trying to fight for that medallion. Even some taking the train. You see Cringe just trying to get some free loot, free positioning. Howley Nefrizzi, the rematch against Andalex and Sato, which is starting off a lot slower this time around. They're trying to feel each other out, giving themselves the best chance to take it all.
We saw Nefrizzi and Howley in the early game last match, putting themselves in a quick engagement. They've done well so far. You can see currently in 8th place with 46 points. So if they keep up the consistency, even if they don't end up getting a win, they will be able to continue in the upper bracket. But you know they want more than just an upper bracket qual. They want a grand finals qual. So Andalex and Sato, I'm trying to think if they look like they want to repeat game 1 and get a bit of action. It looks like they do. Both players kind of taking shots back and forth, but will they fully commit? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think right now it's just kind of looting up for scraps, play it out. If there's an opportunity, I could see them taking it, but I also see Queasy in the feed going down early again. The struggles from Mount Olympus for Queasy and Thomas continue, and we knew it wasn't going to be an easy fight at all. We knew they were contested going into the day, but I just thought we would see just a little bit more out of them on this off-spawn fight that we haven't really had a chance to see, not only today, but almost all FNCS long.
Yeah, this is dangerous. They did take some shots at each other in the first match, but they didn't have a full-on battle. So neither duo ended up going down. I'm curious on how Queasy actually got eliminated here, because Thomas isn't even getting chased by the opposing duo, so I feel like it might have been from afar. But now, once again, Thomas kind of put in a tough situation where he has to find a reboot for Queasy. Good news is, though, it's much earlier on in the match, so it definitely makes things easier.
Yeah, there's a chance that you can kind of wait it out, let them go for the medallion. That's when you make your move to at least get Queasy back. One side of the map to the next. Pink Vico. Kind of calm, cool, collected game plan going in. Last major, I felt like their off-spawn battles were much more of a battle between Kiro and Kiduo for that forecast tower. Even the drop spot this time around, they have a much better chance off spawn, which is why I think they're finding so much consistency. Because yesterday, every game, I think maybe but one, was won by an uncontested team. When you're uncontested, you know as well as I do, you can get your loot, get your material, get your rotation, and then start the hunt for the positioning in which you'd get Surge. And Pink and Vico have this portion of the game down locked. Because once again, just like yesterday, moving towards Mount Olympus, probably going to go on top of the statue just so they get the best line of sight to try to use them DMRs to get Surge.
My favorite part of being uncontested is you can just focus on your route, right? Whether it be your loot path in the early game, maximizing efficiency, or how you're going to get tags in the mid game, where you're going to base up, where you're going to look for those tags. And like you said, being uncontested opens up the opportunity to just kind of replicate that studied strategy game on time and time again. If you're contested, you never really know when you're going to get done with that engagement or what path is going to get blocked off. Looks like Merstash and Malabuka, though, although they didn't get eliminations off the bat here, they still should be able to get the medallion and mythic loot, but be careful. I do see Kiduo and Shiden close by. Will they hop on them here?
Looks like they did close the distance rather quickly. Even a couple other teams around Grim Gates starting to turn their heads in this direction. just cheating right above. Malibuca and Mustache just trying to make sure that they have the entirety of that base underneath their control. And you can see that elevation already paying off tenfold for Pink and Vico. Great examples how they're getting their surge, and just 2 well-placed shots with the DMR is going to take down Axe Force.
Wow. Put to sleep. Great shots from Vico here. Axe Force's duo, though. Sandguild, I believe, did get away earlier on, so it's going to be a kind of Thomas HT type of game here for Sandguild, where he's going to have to play slow and see if he can get the reboot later on. But for Vico and Pink, on top of Mount Olympus, already got 1 elimination, opportunity to get more damage. I mean, they're feeling pretty comfortable, I'd say.
Yeah, especially since they have the line of sight. They can see anybody, including if anybody goes for that reboot card of Axe Force. But from the underworld side of the map, Marius is getting active yet again, picking up both of those eliminations with the help of Sandguild. And you can see this time around, they didn't even try to stay for that medallion or the Mythic Harbinger SMG out from Underworld. A team's kind of use that to track, at least find your location and kind of figure out where you're at. So it's going to be a great adjustment for Marius and Sandguild just to worry about Storm Surge and rotation from here on out without anybody knowing where they're at.
That's the positives of being in that Underworld, having the River of Styx close by. You don't need the medallion to get those dashes replenished. We can see how they actually ended up securing these 2 eliminations. It was pretty stress-free, to be honest. Both players having good angles. Flixie Yanis looking good, to be honest, by the Reckless Railways. Coming from the lower bracket. This is their first shot at actually qualifying to the grand finals. So hopefully they can continue the momentum we saw from game 1 and make something happen here.
Yeah, already they're looking like they're on fire. 2-0 off spawn against their opponents, getting all of Reckless Railways to themselves. And by the time they're ready, after they loot up to kind of rotate on out, find another spot, they see the zone is kind of pulling in, staying around towards Reckless Railways. So they're making this decision to cut back, scrap together whatever loot they want. You see them picking up the water bending ability, even dropping it, so you can see like who they trust more to get that damage before rotating back over towards Reckless Railways, where they're going to try to position themselves with the base so they can get surge. Uh-oh. That's Thomas.
This is not looking good, Jacob. From playing as a solo, tried to find the reboot on Queasy to now getting eliminated once again. Coming from lower brackets, not the best season for Thomas HD and Queasy so far, but anything's still possible. It's just day 2. This is the upper bracket, so even if you are not to qualify today, you have another opportunity tomorrow, whether it be in uppers or lowers. Unlike the lower bracket, where if you don't make it through today, you are gone. Your FNCS is over. So Vico and Pink choosing to stay here on Mount Olympus still.
That's what I like about this team. We already talked about how aggressive they are. They have like a combined 90 eliminations throughout the qualifiers. Very, very even in damage. That's about this team. Vico has about 53. Pink has 37. But their damage is right there toe-to-toe because they're always next to each other. They're always on the same page, especially in those box fights where they excel and a lot of their strength is. And which is why you see them making it so far in a lot of these games for the consistency on that placement. But from a team that's been consistent to a team that dominated the lower bracket yesterday, they proved they could pick up wins in the semifinals formats. It's all about executing here where it matters most. Lower bracket didn't have that win and you're in situation. It's the upper bracket in which they're playing in now, and they already have 2 eliminations off spawn.
Confidence is what we saw from Teeny and Chap in the lower bracket. But like you said, Jacob, they don't need to farm a bunch of eliminations or points here. It can be useful to secure their spot. But what all they need is to win one of the matches. Hero Moppy looking to get a bit aggressive here. Close to Classy Courts. They might not even want to go fully in here committing. But any sort of damage could be beneficial.
That's just to see they don't really have an elimination just yet. There's a lot of space on the low ground for Kiro and Mappy to move around and see them kind of stalemating it out. But Mappy just goes for a shot. No damage being dealt to either one of these players, so It's just going to be noise being made for now. Nobody's even going to rotate towards this side of the map. You see Classy Quartz towards the north. The zone is pulling down towards the south. So there's going to be a lot of time for both of these teams to decide what they want to do. And as I say that, immediately a decision is going to be made for the disengage to happen.
You don't want to waste time. Every moment of the game is important, whether it be looking for damage, looting, or just getting yourself in a position to be best set up for the rotates later on. Depending if you want to be on a more congested side to open up opportunities to get that damage, or if you want to be on a more uncongested side where you just want to stay alive and not use a lot of materials or shields from people taking shots at you.
Especially if you have a lot of faith in your end game, your mid game, where you don't really have to put it all on the line for early eliminations. This is a team that has found a little bit of consistency, at least throughout the day yesterday. They just need to figure out a way to replicate that here today. And you see them moving closer and closer to one of the bunkers that has just opened up. And there's already one player, Lunex, just kind of floating around, possibly trying to sneak some attacks here.
Little split up from his duo. Maybe they'll get caught off guard, but for Marius and Sangild, they already put themselves in more of a risky situation here with the loot they have, though, and already the 2 eliminations, also knowing how confident they are mechanically. They should be able to hold their ground. Issue is being inside the zone. It always puts that little bit of pressure on your shoulders. You don't want to spend too much time here. You're constantly taking HP as time goes on. Being close to Grimgate, though, they have the River of Sticks. They have those dashes they can get just from dipping their toes in the water. So it's not the worst position you could be in.
I must say, I did see Marius with the Mythic Harbinger SMG. If he has the Underworld Medallion as well, he can get siphoned in situations like this, try to save as much of the resources. You see he only has 4 splashes. If they don't have any bananas or medkits, a lot of those splashes are going to be expended almost instantly. And as I say it, he gets blessed with a couple of bandages along the way. And Sangild's going to go ahead, find themselves a spot, safety and zone before they have to move forward again, which isn't too far. You see the zone in the mini-map. There's not a lot of distance to cover from one point to the next, but there is a couple of teams floating around that will try to gatekeep your way out.
Gotta be careful in these moments of the game here. You can't really afford to lose all of your shields here, commit to a very risky engagement. Veno and Tayson have been doing a great job of playing it safely here and just getting tags from afar. They've been getting to the late game without any eliminations, but with more than enough damage. That's one of the benefits of having a drop spot that's so centered on the map. But if you're not centered, sometimes you just have to commit to those eliminations exactly as Kiro and Moppy have done here.
Yeah, another find for them. That's going to help their loot. They weren't necessarily in a bad position before, but this helps them tenfold. If you kind of look at their games yesterday, they had a 3rd, a 5th, even an 8th place. So they have the recipe to make it far into these games. It's just about executing for that win. You can see where they're picking up that elimination onto Lunex. They were sneaking up on him. They knew he was a solo. So not only is that points for the elimination, that's one step closer to placement points.
Weed and Shimoki. Looks like they've got into the Rift Island first. Just 37 above, but with that waterbending mythic on limited range, they should be able to get a decent amount of tags here, especially the people that are now getting closer to them. You can see Wheat looking to hold their ground here on the flag. Do not want to let anybody close. Make sure they secure all that loot. Kind of scary to have a wood wall there, to be fair.
Especially if a team can get aggressive at a moment's notice. He's just trying to get the rest of this loot for himself. There's a couple extra med kits there. Even if you don't need it at this point in time, you want control of it just in case that time comes. 42 above. It's a feeling of comfortability for now, but at the same time, in the back of their minds, with how this FNCS has been going, they know they do need to do more damage eventually. And with so many teams on top of Rift Island, you might see them try to go towards the outskirts, go on the side, and try to take some shots downward from above of any team that might not see it coming.
To be fair, there's not as many duos on the Rift Island in this match as there was in previous ones. There is quite a few, but none in the surrounding area. Here we've got Kurama and his duo partner. They're crouched up, so I'm trying to think if their opponents know. I feel like they must know they're there. Now they do, definitely. It's Cringe and Jake Buka And they're going straight in once again with the double chain of Hades combo. Will it work again though, Jacob?
Let's kind of stagger himself. I don't even know if Kiduo saw him. He had that perfect piece over the top, but he's going to try to hunker down, stay alive. There's another team that's beginning to rotate out in the distance that they're hoping is a little bit distraction, but they're creating more and more separation. So that hopeful distraction going out the window. So a full focus now could be had onto Cringe from Kiduo and Cheatin'. All the way from Grim Gates towards Fencing Fields, and their journey to the zone doesn't stop here because they got another far pool.
Back-to-back fars, not a fun position to be in. Cringe, though, also in a position I would not like being in here, especially it being a 1 versus 2. Chain of Hades knocking on your door. Run towards the zone or find a way out here. Kiduo Cheatin' doing anything they can to hunt down their prey. They have to be careful, like you said. There are duos in the surrounding areas looking at them as they rotate in, so they do not want to spend a lot of time here, as it looks like the rotation will start coming in.
Yeah, I think that was a smart decision. Can't risk it all. You already have damage, you have builds, you have a great loadout. Staggering yourself so far back in zone, especially with another team begins to focus in that direction, would have been a decision they regret. So they immediately think to try to extend and get some distance from another portion of the map. You're seeing the struggles continue for Malabuka and Mustache. Even with the Grim Gate loot, they find themselves below the damage threshold, with the only team in sight right now is Howley and Frizzy. There are a couple more littered towards the outskirts, and even one just ahead of them in zone.
Loot-wise, they're looking quite healthy, but in general, they could have a bit more HP and shields. Being 126 below is going to cause them to use up a lot of the loot they have right now alongside their materials. It's a similar situation to what happened in last game. It's just happening earlier on now. They have some of the best weapons and fighting potential in the game right now. And that's exactly why they're going to capitalize on it and look for some eliminations.
Yeah, they instantly know they can't out-heal. About 20 players need to go down, and Mustache and Malabuka go in. Combination of the mythic Gatekeeper, and again, the Chain of Hades. The biggest thing about the Chain of Hades is how it disperses you. It bunches you around, tosses you in different directions. It's hard to land a crucial shot, especially when you have this second player, the duo, just landed haymaker after haymaker with that Gatekeeper. They catch another team off guard from down surge, now in a much better position than they were just moments ago.
Nasty combo from the duo, putting themselves back in the game as Shimoki and Wheat are looking to do the same. Rift Island, now more players both below and on it as they continue to look for a right-hand peek here. Just a shot. The issue is their opponents know that they're losing HP and shield, that they've been cracked. They heard it, and they have no reason to peek them. 167 above, they just do not want to let them do damage. They can literally just wait this out until either they directly go in their box, or they just get knocked down and eliminated and they get a bit of free loot.
Yeah, Shimoki's already down. I think that was Fire Hunter, aka Various, bro, with a huge flank. And you can see the opportune time. They didn't even get the elimination, but they go in, steal away some of that loot. There's the X squeeze and Buzz 10 below the damage threshold. Even though zone is moving in, they have multiple rotation options from the rifts to the launch pad on top of Rift Island. So they're making the decision to stagger themselves and try to get as much surge as possible, but no shots are connecting. So the longer they stay here, the harder it's going to be to find a spot that they like in zone.
Being 12 below as well does not make anything better. Launch pad is what they can use, but luckily enough, it has gone to 119 above. They have a bit more time. Although quickly enough, the duos that have already rotated are going to be looking back at zone now and waiting for these people to rift and launch pad in.
Yeah, I think they might have overstaken. They didn't really think about the damage that's being dealt. I think it did kind of turn into a 4-tick zone. Even with those legendary bananas, they are losing a lot of HP, staggering themselves that far back. Akira, though, along with the duo, 69 above the damage threshold. Instead of fighting for it, they know it's a short rotation towards the left side of the zone. They're going to try to make their way first and then worry about the surge afterwards. But they get momentarily separated, and that's all it takes is one moment like this for a duo to go down, or at least get taken down as a solo.
Mustache and Malabuka, although they got that refresh, still low on shield as they are below the Storm Surge threshold. They're going to be forced to use this Flowberry just to recuperate all their shield and not even save it for the rotations. 128 below. It's a significant amount. A headshot snipe could be a savior here if Merstash is able to land his shot. They can get tags from afar. I believe Malabuka might have a DMR in his inventory, but if not, this is going to be really tough.
Yeah, they got a lot of options when it comes to getting that damage from a distance, but they still have to make their way in towards zone. Quickly find themselves moving up a few layers because they don't want to get stuck on that mess that is the low ground. Baiting out a sniper. Nobody's really taken that bait. 131 below. Merstash and Malabuka, if they don't start landing these shots from a distance with the sniper and DMR, we're going to see them in the same position as game one, where they have no choice but to try to bake their way in the box. And right now, it does look like Veno and Tayson are their focus.
That is not a box I'd want to jump in. Malabuka now drop down to 39 shield. Use a chug splash to get back up. As Merstash is still low, a regroup could be beneficial here. As Merstash, though, looks like he might have just found a knock. Full elimination on the board, puts them 97 above. They're back on the bright side of the threshold here. Either. Yeah.
That was Astral that went down towards the side, but another far. Max pull from Malabuka and Merstash, and most of the lobby as well, but you can see the medallion being passed around. More than enough Flowberry Fizz to kind of give them the utility needed to dash from one place to the next with ease. It's all about timing here for Malabuka and Merstash, so they don't get tagged up out of the sky. But you can see they're still looking around, gathering the information, because in the back of their mind, they still have Storm Surge as a threat.
Full dashes, 200 effective HP and shield. Flowberry buff as well. This rotation should be quite simple, but they might just want to get a bit aggressive during it. They do have to be careful. They are fighting Veno and Tayson here. Drop down 23 above. They are landing tags, though. The good part of having this medallion is you can afford kind of getting pushed back in zone a little bit. As with those dashes, you can get in so much quicker than your opponents.
Yeah, and while everybody else doesn't really have a chance to regain many of those dashes, if any at all, they're going to be able to kind of dash or change that medallion around just to replenish as many of the dashes. But once they again find themselves below the damage threshold when it comes to Surge, Marius feeling a lot of the pressure, 16 HP. He's able to get out thanks to a little bit of the help from Sanguild, keeping their run alive, but they don't really have a ton of HP between the both for Marius to regenerate. Malabuka goes down. Merstash stuck with his back against the wall yet again. Another tough game for them, but at least they're picking up points in terms of that leaderboard.
If they could rack up a few more, it'd be perfect. But it looks like Pink and Vico, the next duo to go down. Now Veno Tayson capitalizing on that. Flowberry Fizz used. Rotation gonna begin. As now the loot has been split up. Marius and Sanguild, 5 elims so far. A great match for this duo currently. As Various Bro and Very up from the clouds, trying to get ahead of zone.
Oh, Sanguild gets lost along the way. Not the best position for Marius. I'm just hoping he has the medallions to go along with that mythic loot, because that'll be best case scenarios. Merstash finds another quick elimination, picking up the med kits, picking up the materials, almost getting a second chance at life here. Veno Tayson feeling the struggles. They're trying to make their way in towards zone, but they have to be careful. It's situations like this yesterday where they were caught off guard. They didn't expect it around any corner for a team to be that eventually took them out, and you see them playing a little bit more passive, a little bit more choicey with the moves that they're making.
All they need to do is focus on the rotation. They have more than enough damage. They even have enough materials if they want to make a play. Elevating themselves, getting closer and closer to that high ground. Merstash, we saw him lose Malabuka earlier on. He's just trying to scavenge as many placement points as possible here. Has already done a good job of it. With the loadout he has, though, I would not be surprised if we see an insane clutch.
Yeah, he is just taking shields after shields from so many players, but the medallions go down. Somebody else is going to be able to clean those one up. That's going to be Fire Hunter that's trying to make a last-ditch effort here. Velry's already down, running out of builds very, very quickly, trying to make a name for himself and pick up those huge solo impact points that gets him in that threshold of the leaderboard.
And they've done it, Jacob. Tayson and Veno from low ground, elevated themselves up to height. Now all they need to do is hold on here. Yanis Flixie, second height, getting dropped down though. Correctly applying pressure from above, making sure nobody gets close to their layer here. Both players are cracked now. They're put in danger.
Yeah, and they're just trying to target them, hold them into the zone. try to take as much damage from different directions as possible. And this is where a lot of players are going to go down. Trulex gets lost, but Kiro and Mappy, the front runners on the low ground, they're the ones that are surviving a lot of the onslaught that Tayson and Veno are focusing, because there's so many teams between them and that high ground.
Shots connecting. 3 medkits in the inventory still for Tayson. Options to play heal off or aggressive as Merstash is still up. Basically playing a majority of this late game as a solo, and he has not been stopped yet.
Much better game for him in Malibuca. They just haven't been able to pull off that big win like they did in Major 1 to qualify for the finals. Merstash looks up, spots out high ground, but can't really make it a focus just yet. He's stuck just dashing around, and oh my gosh, Kiro gets found out. No more hide and seek for you, and he goes back to the scene, trying to end it again. A whole new duo, but it might be the same result. But no, a turn and burn at the perfect time. But high ground, Tayson, Veno looking down from above, smiling ear to ear as all the work is being done for them.
Raining bullets as Veno drops down, looking to clean it up. Cleanup crew has been called. All they need is that one elimination. Player trying to last as long as possible in the zone. It's Kurama. Can he do it? The 1 versus 2. 1% odds, 99% faith. Has that last med kit. I do see the dash medallion though. He should be able to make it back in here. But Veno and Tayson both with 200 effective HP and shield. 2 players just waiting for that last shot to connect, and there it is. 2 titans of FNCS competitive have qualified to the grand finals.
There was like almost no options for that solo player on the low ground. As soon as he ran out of the med kit, dash or no dash, he had to run into the titans on the high ground that have maintained that position zone after zone after zone. Even when one team looked up to try to take them down, they weren't worried. They just executed to perfection to take the game. And honestly, it wouldn't be an FNCS Grand Finals without Tayson and Veno, 2 of the most dominant players on the region.
We were waiting for this moment to happen, and it's now. Great job on the retake. They had the opportunity once they picked up that refresh. They got enough materials, they got enough loot, and they elevated themselves slowly until they were able to get the retake and just maintain height in those final moving zones. They played it by the books. They got it done, and we'll see them in the grand finals.
Yeah, it was only a matter of time, especially with how well the majority of their games were yesterday. Unfortunate accidents happened. They slipped up, but in day 2, they get the job done. With 2 teams already into the grand finals, let's take a look at that leaderboard to see who's left.